All right. Well, it is 10 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. Glad that you all joined us. Rachel, Patty, Joan, Mansfield office, thank you all for coming and thank you for joining. Let me go ahead and get us started this morning. Our core value today is we practice the art of prioritize and execute because all things are not of equal importance. A yes to one thing is always a no to something else. To maximize our time, we're always prioritizing and evaluating what task will have the biggest impact. When overwhelmed and facing multiple problems, rather than tackling them all, determine the highest priority task and execute. Morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
We focus on what is important, not what is easiest to accomplish. One important task can make more impact than 10 easy to-dos. Again, like, I don't know if you guys heard me last week say that Jamie went back and rewrote all of our core values and kind of expounded on them. So this is one that was not in the original that we used to have. This is a new one, so I wanted you guys to see this. This is going to tie in to our class today, which is week 4 of your guys' Texas Real Estate, which is professional negotiations. So I wanted for you guys to see that. This is Aaron. This is Jennifer. Jennifer and Ray and I and Maria and Gabby Darvis is with us. But Jennifer was at Remax Heritage with us many years ago. And so when she emailed me, I was like, is this the same Jennifer Rusk I know? And she's like, yes, it is. But Aaron is actually in the parking lot of where the Remax office used to be. And Aaron, I have known your name for a long time because State Farm used to see your name. Aaron has graciously brought us breakfast. So you guys out there in online land are missing Chick-fil-A, but that's your fault, not mine. This is Aaron. And so I'm going to give you the clicker. Who's going to present?
I'm going to present, but I'll let her click.
That's the clicker,
That's
the big one right there. And you guys can start right there and you're ready to go. Thank you very much for bringing breakfast, by the way.
All right, thank you. Well, as he said, my name is Aaron Reeves, and part of the reason or the way that we got here was through Ray Mendez. Ray and I were neighbors for 14 years, no, 17 years we were neighbors. And he was one of my first clients when I became a State Farm agent about 18 years ago. Insurance. It's one of your Achilles heels. It's not something that people like. It's one of those things that people talk about in the same breath that they talk about taxes and the federal government. All of that. Really, they hate having to deal with it, but it is a necessity, especially if your clients are getting a mortgage. They are going to have insurance. A lot of different companies out there. There's a lot of different types of policies. What a lot of people don't realize is that if you look at a deck page, they all look very comparable, right? But in reality, in the state of Texas, there's almost 100 different homeowners policies. And all those policies are varied in how they cover the structure, the property, the things inside the home, and all of that. So, what is best for your client? Well, if the people are struggling to get a mortgage, they're struggling to qualify, which does happen a lot. Sometimes what we have to offer may not be a good fit. Just in reality, but give us a shot, because what I find is that a lot of times people are looking at things that can be changed. You can lower certain aspects of the coverage, at least temporarily. You can increase deductibles and all of that to make sure that they qualify. So one of the things, and I was talking to Brian earlier, there's a lot of insurance companies out there. As I said, there's almost 100 different policies. There's also a lot of State Farm agents out there. So what makes us different? Why would you want to call us? We have a philosophy, and I was talking to him. I said, I typically don't hire salespeople. I can teach somebody how to sell. I can teach someone about real estate. About insurance, but I can't teach them how to love people. So I look for people that connect well and love people. And if you love people, if you know how to connect with people, you can learn the insurance piece. 100% of the time, you do what's best for the customer, whatever that means, right? And sometimes that means that we walk them across the parking lot to our competition, because the product that they offer and the coverages that they have is a better fit for their circumstance and situation. Now, typically, I believe 100% in our product. I believe in our claim service. I believe in what we offer and how we offer it. But there are times that, and this is how I say it. I would love to have a brand new Ford F-150 King Ranch double cab pickup, right?
That's neat.
I would love to have that. But in reality, I drive a 2010 Colorado. And I do have another vehicle, but as far as the truck, that's what I have. Because it fits my needs, it fits my budget, it fits my circumstance. So sometimes the product that we have to offer is, as much as someone may like to have it and may want to have it, it's not always a perfect fit, but you don't know that. Back to the deck page portion of it. When you look at a deck page, all the coverages and all of that appear to be the same, because on a deck page, the primary things are the coverage for the structure, coverage for the personal property, the liability, and loss of use. That's pretty much just what's on everybody's deck page. But where State Farm differentiates is on page 17, paragraph 6, line item number 2, right? Whatever. It's the things that you typically don't know about and people don't realize. An example is that a lot of companies, when it comes to sewer backup, they have a maximum amount of coverage that is offered, and that's $5,000. You know anything about sewer backup, right? So let's just say that in sewer backup, what can qualify for sewer backup is if you have a child who puts too much stuff in the toilet, right?
Or an action figure.
Or an action figure, right? And it overflows. That can be construed with a lot of companies as sewer backup. And so the maximum amount of payout is $5,000. Well, if you know anything about water mitigation, right, which is the companies that come in and clean it up and dry it out, typically the average cost of water mitigation nowadays is about $15,000, right? That does not include repair. I have one right now, and it's $42,000 for the repairs, right? That has nothing to do with the water mitigation. And all it was, right, was just a little leak. So those types of things people don't find out or realize until it's too late. So find out what kind of coverages. Again, sometimes all that they can afford in their situation, but a lot of customers, you know, that's not the situation. Yeah, they're looking for the best deal. But one of the things, if you go to the next slide, the most important thing is as soon as possible, as soon as someone is ready to go into contract, have them reach out to whomever, right, for their insurance person and begin to get a quote, because they need to know how much it's going to be, what kind of coverages, is it going to be enough, is it going to meet the loan requirements, right? So get that as soon as possible, because if there's changes that need to be made, or if there are concerns about them qualifying, that's the time to find out.
And I get the calls all the time where they need insurance right that moment because we're approaching that 3-day period that they've got to have everything turned in. And I have to get it to the mortgage company, make sure they approve it.
Here's one of the good things about today's technology. If the person will reach out to us, contact us, we typically can have them a quote, and if they approve, we can take care of the entire thing in less than an hour, right? I mean, get it to the mortgage company, all of those things. A lot of times the customer's not sure. Hey, reach out to your lender and have them send us a request for evidence of insurance, and yeah, we can get it to them almost immediately. So that part of it is quick and easy. So when you're talking about insurance, what are the things that impact insurance the most? Now, I did not put it in here because I have to worry about compliance things, but the number one depictor of risk, right? Number one depictor of risk, credit score, right? Credit score impacts how much you pay for insurance, on your auto insurance, on your homeowner's insurance. Yeah. People say like, hey, I don't want to, you know, why is that? That's not fair in my situation, all that. The insurance industry, in conjunction with the Texas Department of Insurance, recognized that this was a real issue. And so they requested permission to incorporate that into how we calculate premiums. Texas Department of Insurance resisted, so the study was done. Texas Department of Insurance paid for a study through, I'm not sure which university or what. And the data came back that the number one predictor of risk, right? What is insurance at the end of the day, right? It's the measurement of risk and the transfer for a fee. That's it. I mean, it doesn't matter, life insurance, home, whatever it is, measurement of risk, transfer for a fee. So credit score makes a big difference. You're like, well, that doesn't always seem fair. It doesn't make sense. But think about it. You have someone who has bad credit. They typically either don't or can't afford to take care of the maintenance on their home. They can't afford or won't take care of the maintenance on their vehicle, right? And all those things increase the possibility or probability that they're going to be a claim. So all of that plays into it. So back to risk. When you're looking at a home, condition of the roof or the age of the roof now is a huge, huge component. Most of the insurance companies now, in order to stay competitive, what they've gone to is a diminished value roof or a scheduled roof. And what that means is if the roof is more than 5 years old, there's a good chance that the policy that they're buying will not pay for full replacement. It will be their deductible, and then based on the age of the roof, they will pay a percentage, right? So a customer thinks that they've got roof covers, we have a bad hailstorm, they come in to find out that the roof is going to be $40,000, and oh, by the way, the insurance company is going to pay $5,000 of it, and yeah, guess what? So age of roof is a big deal, and it does matter in how premiums paid. So sometimes the cheaper policy is because the insurance company is taking into account that they're not really going to cover the roof, right? Or not for very much. Prior claims on the property. So if you are someone's buying a house and we have that data and we look it up and there's been a prior loss, we need to know that that loss was in fact repaired. Water loss is a major one, right? Because if there's a large 40,000 plus water loss and that was not appropriately repaired, we're now buying the risk, and we don't want to pay for something that was really not coverage there. The polybutylene plumbing, what in the world is that? So from late 60s to 1989 or so, they had just come out with this plastic plumbing, right? Before it used to all be cast iron or copper, right? And so now they're starting to use this, the early days of PVC. The problem was that product did not have longevity, and almost all of that, it breaks, it bursts, right? And it doesn't have to be from a freeze, although freeze does intensify that. So a lot of the older homes, you'll see slab leaks, all that stuff. So we know that if a home was built in that time frame, it probably has that kind of plumbing. And so that is taken into account, unless the plumbing's been completely redone. That's taken into account in how we calculate a person's premium. And then, of course, if a home is set vacant for an extended period of time, there's issues that can happen with the HVAC, with the plumbing, the electrical, and all of that.
Hey, Aaron.
Yes. Go ahead.
Sometimes we get listings where the house is vacant for an extended period of time. And it's just looking for a melody or water. They usually come to the fund, they probably want to cover it because they want to notify the house is vacant.
Right.
So it's best for us to notify them it's vacant.
Yeah, because there's an endorsement. Almost all the companies carry an endorsement, a vacancy endorsement. It's good for 12 months. At the end of 12 months, we'll no longer cover the home if it's continued to be vacant, right? And that's true of pretty much all your major carriers. So if your client is going to be moving out of their home and the home is going to be vacant for more than 30 days, they need to contact their insurance company and get that endorsement for their protection. Because yes, I mean, the house that I lived in next door to Ray, we moved out, we were out a week. We're closing that morning, and I come to check to make sure everything's ready for the final walkthrough, and my driveway is covered in water, right? And one of the fixtures on the washer and dryer had broken or come loose, and water was just spraying.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a mess. Different other things that will impact is what the cost of insurance is. Again, the roof, age of the home, claims history, what choice of deductible. Right now on wind and hail, pretty much the industry wide is gone to a 2% deductible. for wind and hail on roofs, primarily because that in this area, Tarrant County, Dallas County, that is our highest claims cost, and it is the this area here, and then Oklahoma City, kind of a stretch there, is the highest when it comes to catastrophe loss in the United States, okay, for that kind of thing. So that's taken into it. And when you have homes that are not in the actual city limits, the distance to fire hydrants and all are part of it. It's always cheaper if we can bundle, and that's true of pretty much every carrier. Not all. There are some that will specialize in it, but most of your major carriers, if they can have the home and the auto, they're going to get, like with State Farm, typically, if we have their auto, there is a 25% discount on home premium adjustment. Security systems, some people don't care about a security system. It's an extra benefit to the customer, and most of the time, the discount that they will get or the premium adjustment they will get on their homeowner's policy will cover the cost of a security system. If the home that they're buying, it has an updated the electrical system, the plumbing system, or the HVAC, if you can get that documentation that shows who did it, when it was done, so that not all agents will do it, but we will reach out to those technicians or to those companies. There's certain documentation that we have to have, a form that has to be filled out and signed off on. If they do that, then it also lowers the premium. For that particular, there's the three major components: plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. If all three of those have been recently, let's say you got a home that's this age, right? You came in, you completely remodeled, and you put all new plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Even though this was built in 1925, we would give you the benefit, if you had just done that, of the home having been built in 2026, and you would pay a premium based on that, not 1925. Right? The older the home is, the higher the premium is going to be based on the age of it, because as the home gets older, the propensity or the likelihood of there being a loss, right, goes up. So back to that measurement of risk. I say it all the time, and it becomes redundant, but it is such a huge component when you're talking about pricing. It doesn't matter if you're talking about auto insurance, right? Think about it. Youthful driver, pay more. Elderly driver, pay more. Why? Because the risk is greater. So some of the things that just, and I'll try to get wrapped up because I know you got other things to go to, but on most homeowner policies, jewelry, guns, computers, all that, there's policy limits. And so if someone has a nice ring, the homeowner's policy is really not going to be adequate coverage. So there's additional policies that they can get. A jewelry policy. They have fancy names for it, but in reality, it's a jewelry policy. A jewelry policy can cover guns. It can cover baseball card collection. It can cover a wide, plastic instruments like we have on the wall in here. Also, if you have someone who is a person of means, right, they're buying a really nice home, it's important that they have an umbrella policy, because the limits that you can get on a homeowner's policy may not be adequate to cover their exposure. Again, replacement cost matters. It's not just about the loan. It's about, so here's the thing. A lot of people get hung up on, well, my tax roll says that my home is valued at $400,000, okay? And the market says that I can sell the property for $500,000, and that includes the dirt. Yeah. But to go out and get a qualified contractor to come in and from scratch rebuild your home, it may take $650,000 to do it, right? Because you're not getting the benefit of someone who may do it for less money. We pay claims based on qualified, bonded, insured contractors doing it upright. The jewelry policy, the umbrella policy.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, how can we help you? We can help with tricky property. You got a property that's kind of got unique, how the structure is built, or it's got a barn on it, it's got this on it, it's got a pool, but it's got, right? So those things we can help with, helping make sure that your client's exposure is taken care of. Again, sometimes it's about price, but a lot of times it's about are we putting them at risk by them getting a policy that's inappropriate or inadequate? There, that's me. That's how to contact me. We appreciate your time and appreciate the opportunity. Jennifer is amazing. She's my office manager. She's also the primary contact. I do a lot, but I stay busy, doing the things of running an agency, but she's the one that really does
And
the
if y'all
most.
are like down to the wire and need it like right that second, even if it's 4:30 in the afternoon, if you call me, I'll stick around, get it done and get it sent over to the mortgage company.
Do you guys look at existing customer, like I'm State Farm?
Yeah.
Do you look at like existing policies and see, like, would you guys offer anything different to an existing client? I guess I say an existing client at State Farm, obviously we have a different agent. I'm a great time. I just wondered.
Yeah, so this is my recommendation, and we try to do it. Life gets busy, we don't always make it, but at least every year or 2 years, to do what we call an insurance and financial review. So we want to look at your policies, all of them. We want to look at your situation, as much information as you will give me, to make sure that the coverages that you have are appropriate, right? Is there exposure that you're not even thinking about? There's a lot of people, right, who think, well, I have that, it's covered on my homeowner's policy, and they're walking around, right, with a ring that they got for their wedding, right, and it's a $20,000 ring. Your homeowner's policy is going to pay $1,500 after you cover your deductible, right?
I've had one come in that was frustrated with her agent, asked me to look over her policy. And the other agent's office had her home rebuild cost at 1.2 million. I start looking at the address. She lived in my neighborhood. We do not have 1.2 million. It's not there. So once I reevaluated it, I saved her like $3,000 a year just doing it. Now, I can't do anything on someone's policy that's in another agent's office unless they transfer to me. So I had to wait for hers to transfer, and she came in and requested the transfer.
I'm very careful to not cross the line from other, especially state-farm agents. But the reality of it is that we try to take a very hands-on approach. What you need is very different than what she needs, right? Your circumstances are different. Your everything about it is different. And so to try to make it a cookie cutter, hey, all you got to do is this, and this, and everybody gets the same cup of coffee. Well, go to Starbucks and ask them how many different types of coffee do they make in a day, and it's like, there's a million different with this, low fat this, and stirred that, and all the things. It was, unfortunately, even though that page is it's just like yours, right? It's the same coverage. In fact, they're giving me a little bit more on the rebuild. Okay. But do you really need that? One, right? And so it's really understanding all the components of how the policy is structured, the coverages that your specific situation needs. Where is your exposure? Where's your client's exposure, right? You're talking to a client, you're going out looking at houses, you can tell if she's got on a nice wedding ring, or he's wearing one of those watches that, all that. Yeah,
We don't have.
yeah, that we don't have. I have a friend, and his business is watches that are over 100 grand. I mean, that's all he deals with, right? He has a little showroom and all this stuff that you have to go and press a button and all this to even get inside of it. It's like crazy. People have those things, and not all policies cover all that stuff appropriately, but a lot of people make assumptions. So if we can help you, at the end of the day, we're here to help. And if you have questions, it doesn't mean you have to use us. You just have questions. Your client has questions. We're always glad to assist and help out, whatever that means. I mean, I was telling him there are times that a client will call and they have emergency road service, and the tow truck can't get there for 2 hours, and they've got this and that, and I've gone and changed flats, right, myself, right, to help that. So whatever we can do to help you, to help your customers out, we want to do that. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I'll put
Brian.
everything
Yeah.
in our Slack channels this afternoon, your contact information, our website, email. And Jennifer, if you, I'll put yours in there. Did you put your cell phone in your email you sent me?
I don't publish with that one.
Just the office number?
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all texted that number too?
Yes. yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Pictures
But
and
yeah,
all of it.
but I didn't.
That's okay.
It
This
should be
is
on my
great.
email that I sent you.
I'm sorry.
My
Okay,
contact is on the email.
perfect. I will get that through the Slack channels for everybody this afternoon. Thank y'all so much for coming. You're welcome to stay for the meeting, but y'all, if y'all need to go, that's fine too. Aaron, it was nice to meet you, sir.
You too, Brian.
Thank
Thank you
you so
again.
much.
Right? Thanks for stopping by. No, appreciate you making the connection.
All right. Well, everybody's getting another helping of Chick-fil-A, and that's totally fine with me. Okay, so today we're gonna hit week 4 professional negotiations with, from your guys at Texas Real Estate. Next week, there will be no meeting. So next week is spring break, no meeting. I'm gonna be out of town from tomorrow through Wednesday, so Slack is your best friend, please. I will be checking Slack as I can. Oh, thank you. But please, hit Slack if you have a problem or something comes
I
up.
was trying to be helpful and I almost did it worse.
In 2 weeks, we'll be back here and have Old Hope Tuttle, Mary and Nate, and then we will also see week 5, which is the full guide, your guide to Texas Real Estate. That is also the same day as the spring photo shoot at Highland Homes in Walsh Ranch. I will get you the exact address and publish the times. That Thursday, we are going to be at, I think it's called Hattie B's. Is that the name of it? Hattie B's, maybe, right around here someplace. We were talking about it yesterday, so it's booked, but I'll put it in Slack so you guys know where it is, but that'll be on the 26th. We're actually moving it from 11:30 to 12:30. We're gonna do 12:30 to 2 so we can have drinks. Okay. If you haven't gotten the tax protest out to your clients, I highly recommend that you do that. Even if you're not using Gil Denson and Company, you can, Unwell is one of them. There's other ones. This one only charges 25% with this discount code. So I would this gives you a reason to reach out to people about your sphere of influence. Okay, so last week let's talk about the market update. So market is showing early signs of a spring rebound. Home values ticked up in February for the first time in several months. Existing home sales posted a modest year-over-year gain, while the market's still adjusting after the rapid shifts of the past few years. These signals suggest buyer confidence may be slowly improving heading into the spring season. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Inventory is expanding. Conditions are shifting towards buyers, which we've been seeing this a lot here in the Metroplex, especially Fort Worth. Active listings are higher than a year ago. Homes are taking longer to sell. Price growth is moderating. These shifts are gradually restoring balance after years of extremely tight supply, giving buyers more negotiating leverage while encouraging sellers to adjust expectations. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. Builders continue adding supply. Residential construction remains steady with housing starts and building permits holding at consistent levels. Builders continue working to increase housing supply, which should help support a healthier market as demand gradually improves. Bottom line, housing market's moving toward a more balanced spring. Inventory is builders are adding supply. Inventory is growing. Builders are adding supply. Buyers are gaining negotiation leverage, reinforcing a disciplined market where preparation and strategy matter more than urgency. Rates, I don't know if you guys have watched them much, but they're still fluctuating that same. There was quite a bit. There was a big jump and then it all pulled back, and now we're back actually about where we were this time last week. Economic data continues showing gradual progress on inflation, not fast enough to push the Federal Reserve toward immediate rate cuts. The Fed appears comfortable maintaining a steady stance while watching how the broader economy responds. Of course, with international events, this is literally changing daily. Rates aren't collapsing. For buyers, stability creates something the market hasn't had in a while, a rate environment that's predictable enough to make confident decisions. Here's what happened this week. So even though last week we're at 6.13 because of the stuff going on overseas in the Middle East, it went back up. I saw it hit 6.17 for an afternoon, and now yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock it pulled back to 6.09 on the 30-year fixed. The FHA is still down at 5.69, which is down 0.04 from the day before. So we're still seeing that rate fluctuate, but it's maintaining. And good gosh, it's so much better than it was March 12th last year at 6.81. So I mean, today's the 11th, so that's exactly a year ago, and that's how much we've actually shrunk. And that, I think that's something to crow about to your clients. Clarissa's view. I see Clarissa. Hello, thank you. So just kind of for context, one thing I wanted to point out about this, in case you guys didn't like consciously think about it, This is for SFR, single family residential only. So we're not talking condo, townhome, duplex, mobile home, manufactured home, any of that stuff. This is just SFR. County by county, of course. And the things that I'm looking at is I'm watching that pink bar, coral bar versus the green bar. 1 in 3 new listing versus the decreases. That's kind of what I'm watching. I think it's interesting to note Dallas had more listings than they did decreases last week.
Tell me why you're watching that.
I'm watching because this is a 7-day snapshot of the market. So I'm watching how many houses come on the market, and I'm watching how those homes age on the market. The price decreases. So that tells me that they've been on the market probably longer than 7 to 15 days, I would think. Most realtors are going to wait at least 2 weeks when they price a property before they start reducing. So I'm watching those two numbers. Of course, we have to watch the closed sales because that's important to my brain to know how speedy the market is. That also is the active option contract and the pending. So those 3 right there, the active option, the pending, and the closed, tell me how fast it's moving. But then I'm watching because there's 600 houses came on in Dallas County, but only 334 closed.
Is that always constantly a 7-day look back?
This is right here because of this marker right here.
So that's your main filter.
That's the main filter is I'm looking at 1 week at a time. And that's basically trying to give me a pulse. And I can literally, over the years, I've trained my brain to look at this and go, oh, we're still moving pretty good because Tarrant County had 623 new listings. We had 618 price decreases. But this also includes builders at this point, because this is everybody. This is all of Tarrant County. And then the close were 448. So that's a fairly brisk pace for closings over 7 days in Tarrant County.
75%.
Yeah.
80%.
So, okay. Local market inventory expanding across North Tarrant and Benton counties. New listings across the suburbs, Fort Worth, Keller, Justin, Hazard corridors are trending higher than last spring. More choice means buyers are comparing homes more carefully. Pricing strategy is becoming the deciding factor how quickly listings move. Builder incentives still influencing resale competition. So major builders continue offering rate buy downs, closing costs, upgrade packages. These incentives are shaping buyer expectations, creating stronger competition for nearby resale homes in the similar price ranges. The growth in builder incentives are giving buyers more leverage across DFW. Homes priced correctly and presented well are still selling. Today's market is rewarding strategy and preparation, not urgency. Local builders, spec inventory is increasing as builders prepare for spring traffic. Builders are quietly increasing completed or near completed spec inventory to capture spring buyers who want quick move-in timelines. This gives buyers more negotiating leverage. Rate buy down is still the primary incentive tool. Rather than cutting their base prices, builders continue offering aggressive temporary rate buy downs, closing costs, or lender incentives. Keep monthly payments competitive, helping maintain neighborhood price integrity while still driving sales. Builders are balancing the two priorities, protecting neighborhood values and keeping payments attractive. Buyers who compare standing inventory, incentives, resale options carefully often uncover the best negotiating opportunities. This is the local builder update week over week. Honestly, this week we've seen a few more, 3 more listings than we had last week, and the price decreases on the builders in Tarrant County went down. However, if you look at the MLS as a whole, week over week, there were more, about the same number of new listings, but the price decreases increased by about 150. And look at the price increases. Their builders still popping their prices up, which is interesting to me.
Where's that?
Price increase right here.
The green one.
Right there. 291 have price increases.
Okay, so on the first, Clarissa's page includes building.
It does include
This one
everything.
you
I'm pulling out the builders specifically, just so we can see a 7-day snapshot of what the builders are really doing, because they lead the market in most cases. That make sense? Okay. This week's move. So reactivate one paused buyer. Call or text one buyer who stopped looking in the last 6-12 months and say, hey, quick market update. Inventory is higher this spring. Sellers negotiating again. Curious, are you still planning to buy this year, or did your timeline change? You're listening for payment concerns, assumptions about competition, and life changes since you last spoke. Momentum often comes from restarting conversations, not fighting new people. Business tip, grow your business online. Stop worrying about creating the perfect post. I'm so guilty of this. Or developing a perfect social media plan. It's authenticity, not perfection, that counts. Show up as yourself, post often, and more people will like and trust you.
That's so
I
hard.
know, I hate being on camera. I hate it. Okay, did you know nearly 40 to 50% of home sales in today's market include some form of seller concession? And the builders, their rate incentives and the things that they're doing, that can actually push that number closer to 70% from the numbers that I've seen. But most negotiations don't fail because sellers refuse. They fail because agents ask for the wrong things in the wrong order. Professional negotiation isn't about asking for more. It's about protecting leverage and prioritizing the right concessions. So you've seen my data. Inventory's up, buyer's options are up. That means inspections can create pressure, but not the kind you think. What matters now isn't finding every problem, it's negotiating what really matters. Week 4 is about professional negotiations, which is protecting leverage and closing deals. Let me jump up here and present something else because I want to present. And you guys, if you are online, you can look in the brokerage announcements channel, and there should be all of these things that everybody here in class is getting, which I'm about to hand out as soon as I can find my mouse. All right, and over here, there we go. Why did it not do that? I need to present something else. Sorry, my bad. Y'all hang on. Hang tight. Sometimes I'm good at technology and sometimes
It's tricky, man, when you have a lot
Not
of
so much.
pictures.
okay. Now we're there. I can back up. Okay, now we're good. Okay. Let me hand out this stuff for you guys here in class, and those online. You can jump over to the brokerage announcements channel and you can pick these files up. Open up for everybody here. About 10 copies. Like,
Sir,
three.
Can you get more around since red?
Oh, maybe.
Finally.
Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about today. This is professional negotiations, and let me make sure I got everything going like I want it to go. This is not going to be a super long presentation, this part of it. So we're going back to core value 11, practicing the art of prioritize and execute, because all things are not of equal importance. So why this exists? Throughout my career, I noticed that deals don't often fall apart because of defects. Don't always, I should have said. They fall apart because of emotion, ego, or escalation. Clients sometimes confuse winning with protecting leverage, but professional negotiation is about disciplined advocacy under pressure. I know that's a hard thing to understand, but we're going to remove friction and earn trust. So this is where we are on my scale here of the 4 protections of a transaction. This is when these 4 are protected: trust, time, emotion, and leverage, deals can close. Our job is not to sell houses. Our job is to keep deals from falling apart when they don't need to fall apart. I want to clarify that because sometimes a deal does need to be terminated. Move on. One of the most important concepts: a public number is what we request. A private number is what the buyer considers a win. These are rarely the same. So you want to find the private number before the public ask. If we land between X and Y, that's a strong outcome. So here's the real difference. Amateurs react, professionals frame. Amateurs argue, professionals prioritize. Amateurs escalate, professionals close. A win, like we talked about last week with inspection, the win is not getting everything. It's about closing well, protecting leverage, and leaving ego out of it. Ego kills leverage. If you need to win the email, you've already lost leverage. If negotiation becomes personal, it becomes expensive. When the buyer feels righteous, they stop thinking strategically. Being right doesn't close deals. So here's the discipline test. Before we negotiate, we define the buyer's real priorities, the financial guardrails, the risk that we're protecting, and the private number that feels like a win. A lot of this, you don't like literally sit down and think about each one of these things. A lot of this is going to come to you naturally as you get older as an agent. Excuse me, as you become more experienced as an agent.
Oh, there too.
Well, but you, so when you're going through this and you're looking at something, all of this happens without you even thinking about it. I had to really think about how I wanted to put this on paper because all this happens like automatically. It just comes out of you because you're already thinking about how you're protecting your client. You're thinking about the financial guardrails. You know how much money they're wanting or how much they're willing to spend. And then you're also thinking about, oh, the roof's a big deal. Oh, this on this inspection report is a big deal. You're thinking about those things. So this is already in your brain, even though you're not consciously thinking about it. But that private number that feels like a win is, I think, one of the key points that I want to hit on today. So last week I told you about my clients that bought a house up in Sendero Ranch. We got that report and our exposure was somewhere between 7,300 and 8,950. For those that don't know, exposure is how much do the things that we see on the report, what's that going to cost to fix? That's what exposure means. So we initially said, well, hey, it's worth around 8,950, but we're going to ask you for 7,000. And we'd already taken money off the price of the house because we bought it under market. The buyer and I talked about the private win range somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500. I said, if we get that number based on what I see on the report, I think it would be a win. Do you agree with me that would be a win? Buyer said, yeah, if we can get close to that, I think I'd be pretty happy. Great. So seller countered of our 7,000, they countered at 3,000. We said, okay, well, we're only really concerned about the roof. Here is our roof inspection that we sent somebody out to take a look at your roof. This is what it's going to cost, $4,200. So instead of 3,000, now we're countering back at 4,200, reducing the scope to just the roof. The other things didn't matter to us anymore. We talked about that before we even said 8,950. We really want the roof. That's our biggest concern. So we countered with the roof. The seller counted at $3,500. The buyer accepted because we got the number we wanted. We had a private number, but our public number was the 8,950. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So we preserved the leverage, avoided escalation, and they moved in last week. So the roof was our primary concern. To the listing agent, focus creates credibility. We narrowed the scope to protect the transaction. To the buyers, the discipline reduces the emotion. And then we said to the agent, if we can resolve this item, we're comfortable moving forward. And that's exactly what we did on that one. So professionals don't do. We don't defend every line item. We don't personalize the negotiation, and we don't turn the inspection into a scoreboard. We never split the difference automatically. I'll be straight up honest with you. I used to do that. I used to go, well, this looks like it's going to cost about $9,000. How about we ask for 45? That's really not the way that we need to do that. We really need to focus on the priorities, like we talked about last week, the tiers of different repairs. What's important? What's, a broken faceplate on an electrical outlet is not that big a deal when compared to a roof leak. It's not the same thing. And this is exactly what that goes into. A repair list documents everything. If your amendment is 12 items long, you've diluted your leverage. So the repair list for us on this particular house was cracks in the mortar, damaged shingles, recaulked the windows, there was loose toilet, HVAC was older, so at some point it's going to need to be repaired or replaced. There was a broken dishwasher and a broken window. But the real thing that really my buyer was interested in was the roof integrity. That's the primary. The HVAC replacement exposure. So you bought a warranty. Keep that warranty up. You have some coverage there. Structural mortar separation, which we called the builder, and the builder's coming out to take a look at that, and they're probably going to repair that for us. So took care of multiple things, but the seller didn't have to pay for any of that except for the $3,500 that we really, really wanted.
Is it a resale or a new build?
Resale. Only a couple 3 years old.
Mm.
So the builder was like, yeah, we'll come back. Professionals don't do. We don't send the entire inspection report. Do you know why?
Cause of disclosure issues, if the thing falls out, it's common courtesy. Don't be that guy.
Thank you. So we don't sell them a full inspection report because then the seller knows everything that's wrong with the house. At that point,
You have to disclose that.
you have to disclose, and if you back out, well, now they know everything that's wrong, and Then they're going through the inspection report again. We're creating a problem for the seller, which is not very nice. It's not very nice for anyone. We don't increase numbers out of frustration. Well, just give me $5,000 then. If you're not going to do 4,000, give me 5. You don't win all the deals that way. Escalating before narrowing. So you don't escalate until you can narrow that scope and talk about the important things. What's important to the buyer? It's not just about what's important to me. It's about what's important to them. What is their risk? What are they most concerned about? And we don't draft amendments emotionally. I hate it when somebody sends me something mean. I'm a decently nice person, right? So maybe. So when people send me something that's really, you will fix these things, and it's like, come on now. We're not going to talk about that. Concession strategy. Random negotiation destroys leverage. We request credits when the buyer wants contractor control. Personally, I'm a big fan. I wish that all of our contracts did that and the buyers took care of everything. And we just talked about money, because sellers are going to do the cheapest contractor to get the job done. Buyers can control that once they have the house, unless it's safety or something. We'll talk about that in a second. We request credits when timing could delay closing or multiple minor items exist. We request repairs when safety is involved and the work is defined and limited. We request price adjustments when major replacement is involved or financing structure matters. Here's the counteroffer discipline. So professional counters, narrow scope, focus on strongest issues, move strategically, not emotionally. Avoid increasing numbers, expanding the scope, or emotional responses. You have to give the seller a dignified path to agreement. If everybody didn't win, nobody wins. That's the bottom line. We always have to be, one of the early things that I say to another agent is, hey, we're going to pull this thing together and we're going to pull it right across the finish line, if that's what the buyer wants. Right. If there's something that I see or something pops up, you get a clue report and there's been an insurance claim, then there's things that you have to do. But as long as you're all pulling towards the finish line and that's what everybody wants, these are the things that you want to do. Seller psychology. Sellers rarely agree to everything. Allow them to counter, reduce the scope, protect their dignity. We seek agreement, not dominance. If they feel defeated, they disengage. If they feel respected, they stay in. Hold versus move. Hold firm when safety is an issue, when costs are credible, when buyer alternatives are strong. In a market where you have lots of choices, you can hold firm, a little bit firmer to getting what the buyer really wants, as long as it's reasonable. Be flexible when items are maintenance, market limits the leverage, or the buyer priority is certainty. Buyer priority is certainty. Judgment is greater than rigidity. So when to walk away? When discipline says walk. Safety risk is unresolved. The seller refuses a credible repair. Private number is greatly exceeded. So that private number that you discussed with the buyer, if that number is not where you want it to be, the buyer has choices. And when buyer emotion has overtaken strategy, that's being the calm, protect the client even from themselves. That's something that you learn as you get more experience. Professional standard. Negotiation is not about being the only winner. It's about protecting leverage and preserving momentum. The deal must work for both sides. Our job is not to prove a point. Our job is to protect position. Professionalism is respected by other professionals. I love at the end of a closing saying, hey, thank you for a great closing. It was really great to work with a professional. Sometimes I don't get to say that. And I'm sure we all have had those people. But I love working with somebody that takes care of business, that communicates well, and it makes it so much easier for the entire transaction to go through. That's just, of course, I think everybody appreciates that, right?
Right.
Okay.
When somebody tells you, oh, you did such a good job for being a new realtor, it's like, oh, I don't know how to take that.
Well, it's kind of like, think before you send. The buyer looks at an inspection report and wants 9,000. The buyer's private number is 4,500. The seller counters at 3,000. What do you do? Ray, what do you do? Increase, escalate, narrow, pause, and redefine the private number.
I guess narrow.
You would narrow it?
I'll probably pause and redefine a private number, just do an re-inspection.
Okay.
Well, do you really want the house? Is it, you know, look at the repairs, is it worth giving up, you know, things like that. Just reset their priorities. If they really want the house, I think if they can afford it, they can bump. If not, then that's okay, we walk away.
I think both answers are perfectly
Mhm.
legitimate, depending on the situation.
That's right.
Absolutely. So I think those are great. I think all of these actually, you know, you don't increase, you wouldn't necessarily increase, you probably wouldn't escalate, but you would want to narrow or pause and redefine the proper number. Those are the things that are going to, if the buyer really wants to go forward, that's the main key there. Of course, the answer is narrow and define, but the other one that we talked about, pause and redefine, that's the same thing, narrow and define. Drop the number, but drop it by narrowing scope, not by splitting the difference monetarily. Focus on one item with the strongest leverage and let that become the deal. But your answer is completely legitimate because you are at pause. Let's redefine what our private number is based on what we're seeing in this transaction. Do you want to move forward, or do we want to go look at 40 other houses? Because that's an option at this point.
Right.
I think you have to set the expectation up front with the buyer that, look, we're gonna ask for all of this, but it's very unlikely we're gonna get all this.
Absolutely.
What
Great.
if your buyer just says, I want all of it fixed?
That's unreal. And then that's the conversation of the professional of that's probably unrealistic based on the fact that the house was priced here. We bought it either, list price or below. We got a little bit of a deal on it because in this market, you can get a decent deal. So we probably shouldn't expect everything to be fixed because they've already given us this much money off of what they thought they were going to get. Does that make sense?
I sometimes, if I have an unrealistic buyer or seller, I say, if the shoe was on the other foot, like think about it if you were in the other person's place. So they think about it that way too. I've done that before when I have an unrealistic buyer. Just think about if this was you and you were giving the house at a discount, you've done all this other stuff, and now a buyer's asking this, would you want to do all of this? That's what I've done.
Yeah.
It's
And
all
that
about
really
framing.
helps because that puts them in that perspective of, okay, yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you have that type of buyer that's very picky and wants everything fixed, that's where you have to start changing directions and maybe we really want a new house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went that way.
Absolutely.
Other dynamics at work, like.
Exactly.
So,
So the bottom line, professional negotiation is not about winning. It's about protecting leverage, solving problems. We prioritize real risks, stay calm under pressure, structure solutions, not demands, protect the client without damaging the deal if that's what you want to do. A win's not getting everything, it's improving your position without losing momentum. So today we talked about how professional thinks. The guide that you guys got there shows you how to define private win ranges, how to narrow instead of escalate, how to protect leverage, and how to manage buyer expectations. So what do? Read through the professional negotiations guide, start defining private numbers with your clients before discussing public numbers with agents, collapse repair list into leverage list. Again, the goal is progress, not perfection. So in 2 weeks, we will be back and I'll give you my full guide that is client facing. So you'll have the ability to take this guide, make it your own, however you want to do it, use what you want. If you don't want to use it, that's fine too. I just want to provide this part of it. And then there's going to be a quick overview and a cheat sheet that pulls the entire system together, and we'll get that in 2 weeks. I made it at 10:54. I want that noted that we actually finished.
Last week too, I feel like.
I was a couple minutes early last week too, so I'm trying to be, get you guys out doing stuff. So thank you all for joining. Jenny, Rachel, I see Jana, I see Carissa, I see Patty. Thank you, Jenny Downs, as well for being here. Thank you all. Appreciate you. And I'll put everything in Slack this afternoon. All of this stuff will be back in Slack, so I'm going to take it out and then put it back into brokerage announcements. And thank you all for being here. That's it for now. Thank you.
Bye. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna have you transact it with me. Sure. There's a little,
Okay.
both type A. They're my friends. So. Yeah, they're a little stubborn too.